Hi everyone, and welcome back to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. This is Mindy Eggen, and I'm excited to be back sharing video content with you for 2022. Starting with this Love Ya Honeybee card where I'm going to be doing some Copic coloring on my die cuts. I have a piece of lemon chiffon cardstock here from My Favorite Things, and I'm going to die cut out my beehive from this. I kind of forget about this technique where you start out with a color, and that's a lot easier to do your Copic coloring. So I have my Copic markers out here, and I am going to add a bunch of shading and detail to this. I will have all of my colors listed at the top of the screen for you. I'm starting with my darkest color, which is E13, adding that to the very edges of the beehive. I'm going to have my highlight area be the center of the beehive, and that's just going to draw your eye into the center of the beehive or the card, which is where my sentiment is going to be. So I started with E13 and then blended out with the Y17, Y15, and Y11. This is going to give it a very golden honey look. I also had taken the E13 and I traced along the embossed line that the die leaves. Now, while I'm coloring, I do have this on top of a piece of scratch white cardstock just to kind of catch any over coloring that I do, because I really want to make sure I'm getting the very edges of the die to give it a very complete look. So I continued that coloring all the way down the beehive, and then I'm going to work on a few other elements for my scene. I have the hanging branch here, so it's going to die cut out the leaves and the branch. I did that out of limelight cardstock and some craft cardstock. To make my look cohesive throughout the card, I'm going to add coloring to this as well to add my shading. You could definitely ink blend these, but I find using the Copic markers I'm able to add a little bit more detail. So I had taken a removable tape runner and added it to the back of my branch just to hold it in place on that scratch cardstock. This is going to look super messy, but that's only because I have a lot of over coloring. I really want to make sure I'm getting kind of those very edges of the branch so that you're not seeing any white space or just different colors at the bottom of the branch. After I have my branch colored, I'm going to bring in my leaves, and I did the same thing where I put a removable adhesive behind it to hold those small pieces in place. And I have a green color combination listed at the top of the screen to add a little bit of shading to those as well. I can't have a beehive without some cute little bees, so I stamped out these 3 little bees from the Honeybees stamp set using the MFT Extreme Black ink, and I'm coloring with my Copic markers. I'm only going to show one coloring of the bee on screen here, and all of those colors again will be listed at the top. Once again, I'm keeping this cohesive with my design, so I'm keeping the highlight area in the center of the bee, and that's going to match my beehive. Then I'll take a light blue, which I am using BG000, and just adding some small flicks from the body out to add a little bit of color to those wings. Then I'll use the coordinating die that goes with this, hold that down with Post-it tape, and run these through my die cut machine. I'll move on to working on my background, and for this next one, sorry, not sorry, I am once again using the Watercolor Wash Freeform stencil. I think I use this in almost every video, but I just love it. It's so great for so many things. For this one, I am just adding some yellow behind my beehive. I started with wild honey just around the very outer edges. And then I'm going to come in with antique linen in the very center. I was going to use squeezed lemonade, but I thought that might be too bright. The antique linen really takes on kind of that pale yellow when it's next to the wild honey. I'm also going to come back in with that wild honey and just deepen up those edges a little bit. I really wanted to have a glow behind my beehive. Now I needed to add some sparkle to this, so I'm taking this over to my little splat box, and I am going to scoop out just a little bit of Perfect Pearls in gold. I will add a couple drops of water to that, and I'm going to flick this all over my background. I'm just tapping my paintbrush, which is going to give me large splatters, but for smaller splatters, I can flick this off of an acrylic block. For my sentiment, I die cut out a love ya 3 times from black cardstock, and I'm going to layer that together with some liquid glue that I just have in a really fine point bottle. And then I'm going to layer this on top of the shadow layer that I die cut out of white, which is really going to look nice against my yellow background. I didn't want this wide open empty hole behind the beehive, so I just trimmed out a piece of black cardstock about the size that I needed, and I added tape runner around that hole on the back of the beehive, and then just attached that black cardstock. Now, if I were to do this again, I would actually make that a dark brown instead of black. The black I didn't realize kind of meshed in with my love ya. I left it alone. I didn't change anything. But if I were to do this again, I would make the center of the beehive a dark brown. Now I can go through and start creating my scene. So I added the branch and the leaves with some liquid glue. Some of the leaves I did pop up for a little bit of dimension. I have some foam tape behind my beehive, and then I'm just placing that kind of overlapping the branch just a little bit. And now I'm figuring out about where I want that love ya. And that's where I kind of saw that my black meshed in with the center of my beehive a little bit. But I just kind of off-centered that a little bit, placed my bees down about where they're going to go, and then started attaching everything down. So just using the MFT liquid glue to attach the love ya portion. And then I'm going to add my bees with foam squares. I purposely decided to do 3 bees because odd numbers are always really great in card design, which is why I have the bees placed where they are. It's kind of forming this visual triangle to lead your eye to the center, which is where my sentiment is. That finishes my card project for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll see you again real soon.